Welcome to the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I'm your host, registered dietitian and kidney stone expert, Melanie Betts. After learning a ton about kidney stones and helping people prevent stones at the University of Chicago, I was fed up with all the terrible advice people were finding online. So I decided to do something about it. The Kidney Dietitian was born. This podcast is for people who want to learn what actually works to prevent kidney stones and still enjoy life, eating, and their favorite foods. Let's dive in. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. This is Melanie, and I am so excited that you are here listening to my very first podcast episode ever. Starting a podcast is something that I've wanted to do for quite some time, and so I am super excited that I finally have taken the leap and started a podcast. This is something that people have been asking me to do for a while, and so I finally got to it on, down my to-do list. So I'm so excited that you're here and are listening to my very first episode ever of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I thought that I would take the first episode to really kind of just introduce myself in case you don't know me or don't know about the Kidney Dietitian. It's always a good idea as a general rule to make sure you know who you're getting health information from. So I thought that I would dedicate the first episode to me and the Kidney Dietitian, just so you know a little bit more about me. So if you don't know already, my name is Melanie Betts, and I am a registered dietitian, and I live in the Chicago city. I was going to say the Chicago area, but it's actually the city. If you know Chicago well, I live in a neighborhood called Ravenswood, which is just kind of northwest of Wrigleyville. So I love the city. I have been here for, like 12 years or so, which is insane. I moved here from Michigan for grad school. So I grew up in a very small town, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, which is just outside of Lansing. I went to Michigan State, go green. If I have any fellow Spartans out there, go green. Went to Michigan State for my undergrad, where I got my bachelor's degree in dietetics. And then I moved to Chicago for my combined master's program and dietetic internship at Rush University Medical Center, which is just on the west side of Chicago, and I had such a wonderful time there. So I spent about 2 years at Rush, and those years were intense. If any fellow dietitians are listening, you know how crazy that internship year can be, and when you combine it with a master's degree, it can be even more crazy. But anyway, so that is what I did for my first 21 months technically, or 2 years or so in Chicago. And since then, I have done a whole host of different things. I worked in consulting for a little while and specialized in geriatrics for a small amount of time. I worked back at Rush for quite some time, where I did a lot of work with geriatrics and a lot of work teaching other dietetic interns, whole bunch of different things. But through all of those different jobs, I ended up working at the University of Chicago for about 6 years. And that is where I really fell in love with kidneys. So that is why we're all here today, right? So I had taken a job at a company called US Foods, which is a food supplier to different hospitals and nursing homes and restaurants. Now that I mention US Foods, you will see their trucks everywhere. They have a very, very cool truck. So I was working at US Foods, and I liked that job, but I really missed working with patients and working in academia, because I had spent quite some time working at Rush, as I mentioned earlier, where I really had sort of dove into research and teaching and patient care. And ultimately, I kind of missed that aspect and that challenge of my job. And so when I saw that this position opened up at the University of Chicago, I was like, cool, this is something that I've got to take, right? So at that point, I started working in the section of nephrology. And I'll admit, at that point in my life, I knew nothing about kidneys. Like, I really didn't. That kidneys was not something that I specialized in, or, like I said, knew much about. But I was like, cool. Like, this looks like a great job. It was all outpatient, and I liked the opportunity to really be able to build a relationship with patients, which you don't really get to do when you're working with patients who are hospitalized. And so I was like, cool, let's take this job and see what happens. And I suppose the rest is history. I really learned a ton at the University of Chicago, and I'm so grateful to all of the nephrologists that I was able to work with during my time there, because I really learned so much. During my time there, I worked a lot with chronic kidney disease, so people who have kidney disease who are not on dialysis, which was great. I really enjoyed working with people who have CKD. There's so much that nutrition can do to help slow the progression of kidney disease and help prevent people from needing to start dialysis, or delaying the need to start dialysis, or get a kidney transplant. So that was pretty cool, and I really enjoyed that. But I also found myself working in kidney stone clinic. So sort of a sub specialty within nephrology was kidney stones, and the University of Chicago happens to have one of the most well-known, world-renowned kidney stone programs. And so I truly just kind of fell into this kidney stone world, but it was fascinating. So I just truly, during school and up until that point in my career, I knew barely that you had to drink more water to prevent stones. Truly, it's just not part of what dietitians are taught. But when I started learning from some of the wonderful nephrologists there, Dr. Koh, Dr. Zisman, Dr. Prohaska, and Dr. Worcester, truly. It's just amazing how nutrition can impact every aspect of kidney stone formation, therefore prevention, right? So we want to obviously make sure that we're doing the right things to help prevent stones. And so I found myself just kind of digging further and further into kidney stones and really falling in love, if that's a term that you can use with kidney stones, just because I was just floored again with how much there was to know, how little other people knew. And it's just so cool how nutrition touches everything, right? I suppose you could maybe say the same of basically everything else, but kidney stones I just really developed sort of a special interest in. And so, I'm chugging along working at the University of Chicago. And then in April 2020 is actually when I launched the Kidney Dietitian. I'll admit I wasn't on Instagram at that point in time. I'm not an old dietitian, but I'm not a young dietitian. And so Instagram, I wasn't even on Instagram personally. But I think in November, so I was like, all right, I'll check out this Instagram thing. And I realized that there were all of these dietitians doing such cool stuff, sharing such cool information. And I was like, this is such a fun way to share quality, evidence-based, accurate nutrition information with the world. I was like, cool, I can do that. So I started an account and named it the Kidney Dietitian. So fast forward, like I said, to April 2020, that's when I launched my website, and that's when I really kind of dove into everything the Kidney Dietitian. That is my blog, thekidneydietitian.org. If you haven't checked it out yet, there is a ton of information out there on kidney stones and also some about kidney disease, but I've really found myself focusing even more on that kidney stone aspect. And at that point, I've just kind of run with it. So there was this thing called COVID happening, unfortunately, around April 2020, if you remember. And so that really gave me a ton of time to really get my business. At that point, I didn't think of it as a business, but here I am. It was really just kind of a fun side project for me. I just loved making cute graphics, and I still love writing the blog posts. I love being able to reach so many people and share science-based information about kidney stones. So I think really what inspired me initially and continues to light that fire under me to continue to do what I do is the frustration and, quite frankly, anger that I feel with how much very poor and, quite frankly, dangerous nutrition information there is out there in the world, specifically about kidney health in general and kidney stones. There's actually data that's been published that shows that information that you get even from your doctor may not be relevant to you, which is insane, but that could be a whole nother episode probably. But so, I just get so frustrated, because at that point, I was working at the University of Chicago and we're seeing patients all the time, and people were just trying to do the most ridiculous things, and everyone was so, quite frankly, afraid to eat. And as someone who loves food, I'm a dietitian, really, because I'm a foodie. I just love to eat. that was just heartbreaking because so much of what they were doing was not relevant to their situation, or didn't even matter for stones at all for anyone. And people were just, afraid to eat. And eating is such an important part of all of our lives, right? Like, eating is fun and social and emotional and spiritual even, right? Like, there's so many beautiful sides of eating. And I felt like this diagnosis of kidney stones sort of took that part of life that is truly should be so beautiful away from so many people. And they were trying to eat or trying to avoid so many things. They felt like there was nothing left for them to eat. People are eating like rice and chicken and feeling guilty even about eating that, which it's just crazy. So, and so I really felt like I almost had an ethical duty to do what I could in the online space to help correct that information. And again, just do my part to kind of put out this quality nutrition information. So, here we are. Fast forward, what month is it? It is July of 2023. And like I said, my blog has just grown, and my social media presence has just grown, and I'm truly so grateful for this opportunity to be able to touch so many people. So it's just crazy to think about how every day somewhere around 10,000 people sees something I post on social media or comes to my website or, interacts with me in some capacity, which is just crazy. I'm so grateful for every single one of you that are here and trust me with your health and want to keep learning from me. I don't take this for granted. So thank you for being here. I really do appreciate this opportunity. It's pretty phenomenal. So on a more personal note, so like I said, I was working at the University of Chicago, and I actually had twins about a year ago. They were born, Ella and Carter, were born in May of 2022. And obviously life changed a lot when you have a baby, and when you have two, it perhaps changes even more. Those are my first babies, first pregnancy, and first babies. And so I made the very difficult decision to leave my position at the University of Chicago after my maternity leave. And so now I am exclusively doing the Kidney Dietitian. So here we are. So I also wanted to share a little bit about me, just me, so you can get to know me, right? It's great that I'm a dietitian and where I went to school, but a little bit about me on a personal note. In addition to now being a twin mom, which was a little rough at the beginning, but now I'm really kind of getting into the flow of things. They're about 14 months now, and they're just taking their first steps, and they're just could not be cuter, right? So I'm really enjoying that. But some other fun facts about me. Let's see. I really love wine. So I mentioned that I'm a foodie, and I feel like food and wine sometimes often go together, right? So I am a big wine fan. I get a little nerdy when it comes to wine. I'll admit that. So if you're ever having a glass of wine with me, you might be a little annoyed because I will take an inappropriate amount of time to smell the wine and do all the things that I think I should. I pretend to be a lot fancier than I am, but yes. So I'm a big wine fan. My favorite is Pinot Noir from Willamette. So shout out to anyone in Oregon. Other fun things about me is that I'm a huge Michigan State football fan, and basketball too, but football is really where my heart is. I mentioned I went to Michigan State. My dad actually works at Michigan State. My parents met at Michigan State. I grew up just outside of Lansing, so I was kind of didn't have a choice, right? Michigan State is bred into me, so you can always find me watching Michigan State football in the fall. And I also, the other fun fact that I wanted to share is that I really enjoy tap dancing. So I grew up dancing quite a bit through high school, and tap was always my favorite, and I've dabbled a little bit even as adult in some tap classes. But other than that, I'm just kind of your normal person living in Chicago. Like I said, I live in the city here with my husband and now my two twins. We love going out to eat and trying different ethnic foods. I actually, this went on for about 5.5 years, and COVID kind of did us in, and I haven't got it re-going since. But I actually had what I called Ethnic Dinner Club with a whole bunch of my girlfriends, and we had a group of up to probably 20 people that would meet once a month, and we would try different ethnic restaurants all around the city. And we did that every single month for about 5.5 years, which is pretty crazy. I think we truly only missed maybe 2 or 3 months due to like storms one day and just kind of some crazy stuff. So anyway, so I love trying different restaurants. I love trying different foods. Like I said, I'm really a dietitian just because I love to eat. So, and I just love food. So, that is a little bit about me. If you are listening to this podcast or listening to this episode on YouTube, please take the time to introduce yourself. Reach out to me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at The Kidney Dietitian. I'm also on Facebook at The Kidney RD, or my website, thekidneydietitian.org. Again, I appreciate every single one of you. And so if you'd like to introduce yourself, let me know where you are. It's so fun to hear, who I'm talking to and where you are in the world and in the country. So if you'd like to do that, no pressure. But if you'd like to, I'd love to hear from you. And with that, I will close my very first episode. Like I said, I wanted to take this episode to introduce myself, but all the other ones will be full of tons of information about kidney stone nutrition. I hope that you enjoy this podcast and have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For more help with kidney stones, check out my website, www.thekidneydietitian.org. For more personalized help from me, check out my online course, Kidney Stone Nutrition School. VIP enrollment includes help directly from me. I can't wait to see you there and help you prevent kidney stones. Have a great day.